So before we go, Trev, I did want to kind of more officially discuss the news that broke today. And that is that Notre Dame and Auburn have agreed to a 2-year series, which will take place in 2027 and 2028. So according to the what has been released today, Notre Dame will host Auburn on September 25th of 2027. That will be the first matchup between these two schools. And that game will be the week after Notre Dame plays Michigan State and the week before they play Georgia Tech. Those two games in 2027 have already been scheduled. The return game in 2028 will be on October 28th. So apparently the SEC has no problem with their teams scheduling games and non-conference games in October. Shocker. There's one thing I'll give the SEC credit for. By and large, their teams are not afraid to go play good competition out of conference. Not everybody. But Auburn has always been a program willing to play tough teams. Remember, they went out and played Pete and USC back when USC was a powerhouse. So I'll give them credit for that. So the 2028 game where Notre Dame goes to Auburn will be on October 28th of 2028. And so for Notre Dame, that game will be the week before Notre Dame plays at Virginia Tech. And then the next week they're home against Clemson. So that'll be an interesting stretch there for the Irish to get down and play at Auburn. So, Trev, I just want to, not our own, I kind of shared some opinions. So I just want to kind of briefly go over just our thoughts on this. I think it's good that Notre Dame is scheduling more SEC teams. I don't think it's a coincidence that Notre Dame has scheduled more SEC teams lately than Big Ten teams. There's some Big Ten teams on the schedule. I think there's this assumption that the Big Ten feels that eventually they're going to be able to corner Notre Dame into playing the Big Ten. I think there's some strategery here with the Notre Dame to say, hey, we'd have no problem playing SEC teams. We have no problem doing that at all. So I just think there's a smart move. I don't know how much this game moves the needle for me overall. If you beat them, you're supposed to. If you don't beat them, unless there's those random years where Auburn happens to be really, really good, then perhaps it could help you out a little bit. But what will Auburn be in 27 and 28, Trev? We have no idea. They just fired their coach. We're going to have to find out who their coach is. We don't know. But I will say, even though I don't have a strong opinion about playing Auburn one way or the other, I do like the fact that they are trying to say we want more SEC and more Southern teams on our schedule. You think about the floor, the after 28, I think 29 and 30, they play Alabama. I think it's 31 and 32, they play Florida. They have on their schedule. Arkansas is going to be on the schedule in 2027. You've got Texas on the schedule, I think, in, was it 28, 29? You've got a 12-year deal with Clemson. Notre Dame is making it very clear we want to go south for games. And I think that is good for them in a lot of ways. It brings exposure to the program down there. I also think it lets the Big Ten know that if you guys think we're just going to sit back and somehow if the ACC folds, we're screwed, you got another thing coming. We got plenty of people that want to play us. Pete Bavacqua said it. If USC doesn't want to play us, we have plenty of teams that are willing to play us. Exhibit A right here. Because what people could say is, well, yeah, but some of those teams may want to get out of those games now that their SEC is going to go to a 9-team league. Well, Auburn already knows they're going to a 9-game league, 9-game schedule, and they just scheduled Notre Dame. So I think that speaks volumes about Auburn. I think it also says a lot about Notre Dame and the desire to play down south. Just quick thoughts, Trev, before we get out of here about this Auburn-Notre Dame schedule.
Yeah, I love what Pete Bavacqua and the rest of the athletic department are doing with Notre Dame's football team too, because a lot of this comes down to perception. Like we had a lot of conversation in the offseason about the perception around Notre Dame's team. And as much as we value playing teams like an NC State that have two big ranked wins this year, saying that you beat a 5-4 NC State team doesn't do the same as saying you beat a 5-4 SEC Auburn team inside of Jordan-Hare. It just doesn't. I'm not saying that I agree with it. That's just the facts. And that's unfortunately how the media perceives wins like that. But where I respect Notre Dame for scheduling Auburn is because Notre Dame easily could be like, dude, we're playing the SEC. Who do you got? Oh, Kentucky. It's like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
You know, it's like that. Same thing with Notre Dame. Dude, we're going to play 4 Big Ten teams this year. Who you got? Rutgers, Northwestern, Maryland, and Purdue.
Right.
What up, Big Ten? Like, so
Yeah.
I
dominated the Big Ten this year.
right.
Okay.
Right. Like the years when the Brian Kelly times, like we ran through the ACC. It's like,
Sure.
yeah, I mean, Wake Forest and, you
didn't play Clemson
or Miami or Florida State or
when they're good. Right.
Yeah. So from a perception standpoint, I like it. And then, like I said, like you said, we gave our opinions earlier, more from a fan perspective, but I like the perception that this gives Notre Dame of, I mean, in 1 year in 2028, you're playing regardless of how, barring them just being putrid. You get Texas, Arkansas, Auburn, Virginia Tech, Clemson, Miami, Pitt.
Yep.
What are people in the committee going to say at that point if Notre Dame is, 10-2 going into the postseason? Like, well, they didn't play Alabama and Ohio State and all, like,
right.
Those people will always be there. But
Right.
I love adding an opponent like Auburn to the schedule for a perception.
Like, in some ways, it's a lose-lose for Notre Dame. You're expected to beat Auburn. But if Auburn has one of those years where they're a top 10 team and you beat them, you will get credit for it. I mean, you will. It just, if they're not ranked, it's kind of like, well, you better beat them because it's, who cares? It's kind of like beating Arkansas this year. Notre Dame gets no credit for the fact that they destroyed Arkansas this year because they're just not good. So, but at the end of the day, there's a greater odds that that's a big win over Auburn than it is Arkansas because there's just more years where Auburn is good. We'll know more about that here in the next year or two, but first we got to find out who their coach is going to be. Once we get that answer, then we can start to evaluate what kind of game this might be for Notre Dame. But yeah, I like it, Trev. I like the strategy. I don't have a strong opinion about playing Auburn, as I mentioned earlier. But I like the idea of playing more SEC games. That's why I like the idea of scheduling a 12-season schedule against Clemson. I don't want to be stuck being a regional program. And this is the whole point that we've been making for a while now about Notre Dame, that people that think that Notre Dame is just going to join the Big Ten and become this regional program don't know Notre Dame. And yeah, that's just kind of what I think. And I'll also say a lot of respect for the SEC.
Oh, yeah.
Because their top teams have not been afraid of scheduling Notre Dame. When Alabama scheduled Notre Dame, it wasn't in 2016 when they sucked. It was during the time when Notre Dame was a pretty good program. Auburn is scheduling Notre Dame right now where Notre Dame is arguably a top 5 program. Texas A&M was not afraid to play Notre Dame. Florida is not afraid to play Notre Dame. Kudos to them. And right now, the only Big Ten team that I know of that's willing to do that at the top of the board is Ohio State.
Yeah.
The rest of the Big Ten teams are purposely scheduling soft non-conference games. There's only one program that's willing to say we'll play anybody, anywhere, anytime, and that's Ohio State, because they will schedule tough out of kind. There's every now and then you just get those weird scheduling conflicts where you just can't get that game. But by and large, Ohio State has Texas coming up again.
Yeah. I would say Ohio State and Michigan the last couple years. They played Texas out of conference last year and then Oklahoma down in Norman this year.
Those were scheduled before. I think they're kind of moving away from that in future years a little bit. But Michigan used to be that way. They would play Notre Dame every year, and then they'd go play a good Pac-12 team as well. But yes, to your point, Penn State's never really been that way. Every now and then they'll have a good game, but by and large they're not.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
One of the last thing that I'll say on this too, this is, I could be far off on this. This is just how I'm reading this. I think Notre Dame is planting the seeds to eventually try to move away from the ACC. That's just me. Like, you wanted the Clemson game not a part of that series, like a part of your ACC deal. You're putting more effort into playing more Big Ten and SEC teams. I think that they're putting themselves in a position to where if they move away from the ACC, they don't have just this 5-game gap in their schedule.
Here's what I think. I think you're onto something, but I would tweak it a little bit. I think they're protecting themselves in case the ACC goes away. More so than moving away. I don't know that Notre Dame has any intention. I literally don't know. This isn't I doubt that Notre Dame is going to want to do this. This is literally, I do not know if Notre Dame's going to want to re-up with the ACC when the contract expires, what's it, 2035?
Yeah, I think so.
You know, and something would get done in the year or two before that. I don't know that Notre Dame would want to do that, but right now that's the furthest thing from your mind, because right now you don't know that the ACC is even going to survive till then. What these deals do, Clemson, other, you know, like what that does is that allows you to guarantee that if the league goes away, we'll have a plan. Because if the ACC went away, the first thing you'd see Notre Dame do is they'd try to get at least 2 of the Carolina schools into long-term deals. You'd see them probably go to try to get UVA or somebody like that. Like Pitt, I promise you, if the ACC went away, Pitt and Notre Dame would sign a long-term deal. I promise you, but I'd be shocked if they didn't. You know, so that's kind of where I'm at, because a lot of those teams are going to need Notre Dame for validation, you know, as they try to find leagues. Because when the ACC dies, if it dies, it'll be because 4 or 5 schools just bounce. Those other schools aren't going to necessarily have immediate landing spots. So they're going to need to protect themselves. And one way to do that is let's get Notre Dame on the schedule. And then Notre Dame will gladly go do that with those teams, because that's how they fill their schedule. But I think what this does, Trev, is this says, okay, we're going to get good games on our schedule at the top, and then it's a lot easier to fill out the bottom.
Yeah.
But if you got a weak schedule, and then now you've got to try to find 4 good games, it's going to be a lot harder to do. Get Texas on the schedule, get Clemson on the schedule, get Auburn on the schedule, and you figure the rest. You got you got Navy, then you figure the rest out. And so I think it's more protecting themselves. I think you and I are on thinking the similar thing, but I think it's more so than moving away from the ACC. I think it's more about protecting themselves. And then as we get closer to 2035, then you'll start to see them, if they don't want to sign, then you start to see them moving away from the ACC.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. I think it also gives them more bargaining power towards the end of it too. It's like, hey, look, we got Auburn playing us, Florida, Michigan, all these other
We've
schools.
already signed Clemson. We could go sign right now. We could go sign Pitt, BC, you know, Syracuse and Duke to 10-year deals right now.
Yep.
So agree with you completely.
Well, folks, that's going to do it for us here today on the Irish Breakdown podcast. Like Brian said, there's going to be no IB Nation Sports Beat tonight. So the next time you'll see us on the Irish Breakdown podcast will be tomorrow, when we go through game predictions, game records, and the rest of the show is just 2 guys talking ball, the rest of the slate of college football, which would be really, really exciting. And then remember to also subscribe to the CFP Nation channel. Bill Bender and Bill Troche are going to go live tomorrow morning. And then tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. Eastern time, I'll be going live with Jesse Stiers for this week's edition of the Spread Option. So on your way out of here, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, whatever streaming platform you listen to us on. We would greatly, greatly appreciate a 5-star review. But as always, the best way to support what we do here is subscribe to the premium message board at boards.irishbreakdown.com. So until tomorrow, that's Brian. I'm Trevor. We'll see you back here very soon on the Irish Breakdown podcast.